Mark is the most tolerant, helpful, flexible person when it comes to planning.
That what is what you're really saying here, that you've messed Mark around a lot?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Is I've messed Mark around, and he's still here.
And he's still here.
I have no comment on that.
That's a yes. He has messed.
I'll make it for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hello, welcome back to the studio. I'm here, Ian Jindal, Editor-in-Chief of Internet Retailing with Georgia.
Hi, I'm Georgia, and I head up marketing at Adobe.
But mostly importantly, joining us over the internet wires is Mark from GuitarGu. So, Mark, I've said half the intro there, so tell us about you, tell us about GuitarGu, and welcome to the studio.
Firstly, thank you for having us. Yeah, it's a big year for GuitarGu. This year, it's our 20th anniversary. So we get an opportunity to look back at the last 20 years and celebrate making music better for everybody involved with the business, but also get to look forward a little bit as well. So I joined, as you said earlier, before we started, 17 years ago to build our online business. Before I joined, we didn't sell online. And the company's original vision back then, music retailing was really dark and dingy, had a really poor experience, you had a really poor selection. And two founders decided, hey, we can do this better. Let's just put 1,000 guitars on the wall, have a little bit of fun and see how we get on with that. So that was the seed of the idea, I guess.
Yeah.
So 20 years, and you've been there 17 of them.
Yeah.
How did they cope with the first 3?
I know.
Questionable.
Well, they didn't, which is why they had to bring him in.
But also, if we think about music, the early internet selling was dominated by easy products, books, publicly available catalog, small, handleable, stackable, postable, easy. Online grocery, very difficult, arguably not, loss-making for a long time. And apparel with varying levels of success. So along you come and think, oh, we are going to send through His Majesty's Postal Service a delicate guitar that someone hasn't picked, that has to be insured, plus a plectrum and some strings. This sounds to me like one of those problems that if someone offers it to you over dinner, you just politely leave and delete their phone number. So what made you say yes to this difficult task?
Well, there was a few jokey conversations before it all came to pass. But I had a history. I grew up in the music and television industry, had no musical talent, no acting talent I may add as well. I was always into how things worked. And a few jokey conversations turned into some serious ones. And you laugh and you talk about the smaller goods. The first product we sold online a long time ago was a £699 Taylor acoustic guitar, which would be the hardest thing you would think to ship.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what we did at the very early days, and still kind of emanates through what we believe in today and about kind of engaging with the customer, is we did things like picking up the phone. We phoned the customer and thanked them for their order. Back then you had Amazon and other things going on that didn't do that. It was very faceless. We had to try very hard to make it less faceless and actually connect with that.
But sorry, you've skipped the bit between the ring the customer and actually get 700 quid's worth of guitar to them without it being matchsticks.
Do you remember carbon copy?
I am old enough, George is.
No, I have no recollection whatsoever.
So you would go as far as writing the actual delivery note and the parcel number. Now it's all scanned to dispatch and all the rest of it. The very early days, you were essentially with the neatest handwriting. Guys were actually writing the delivery address to the customer and making sure it was right as well, because tracking wasn't the same. It was pre-SMS text messages. All the rest of it.
I am actually joking, because I actually started in fashion PR, where I was shipping products and outfits across the globe with just the levels of anxiety that I think only maybe Mark can understand on, I don't know where this thing is.
Well, we had these amazing, over the years, we've gone, like to think above and beyond to look after the customers, but we've got great stories of phoning up depots when there's been snow, asking them to go in the back of trailers. Can you find this £7,000 guitar, please? The customer's going away on holiday the next day. it's going to be out in the cold for 5 days. Can you help us out? And
Yeah,
he's
called Sting, and he lives on the corner. Yeah. So we've dived into some detail there, but can we just zoom out a bit, or pan out if we're being media, and talk about the business overall? Because there was a time last century where most major towns would have a guitar shop, and there was a time last century when there were music lessons in schools. So there was a sort of an old-fashioned analog music experience. If we track forward now, then the music industry has exploded, especially with lockdown, with people becoming DJs, doing digital production, multi-instrument, etc. So just help us understand how Guitar fits into the world as a retailer. What is your offer? Where are you positioned?
It kind of stems back to the original premise of what we did online. We did try, and still to this day, try to differentiate ourselves. It's not about being a faceless box shifting company. All of our staff are musicians to some degree or another as well. So we won't sell something that we wouldn't buy ourselves. And within that, you get this trust with the customer, and it's about experiencing. We sell a product that people want to touch. We come back to the very seeds of it. These stores you talked about would maybe only have 8 guitars on the wall, would maybe only have 100 or 200. They were trying to serve the whole music industry, whereas what Guitar started life out is actually just about the musician, the guitarist itself. And then we diversified over the years. But it was really about, okay, what does that experience look like on steroids? What does that look like? Because the range that you can actually get into is vast. I mean, we've got over 3,000 electric guitars in stock, thousands of acoustic guitars, and that's what we've always believed in, and that's how we've differentiated ourselves, but also through multiple stores as well. That's a big bit. Being
and is it 6 you've got now? Or
6 at the moment. Yeah. We have had a venture in other parts. We had a pre-Brexit venture in Belgium, which washed its face and did reasonably well, but unfortunately the powers that be set that on a different course.
Oh, well, you get a prize for mentioning Brexit first, which is good. So a question though, I get wanting a bigger range, especially if from the digital side, you happen to want a Gibson 307-A in teak with whatever. So that whole mega catalogue. But until you actually play the guitar, you can't really appreciate the feel, the sound, the why I should pay 7,000 rather than 700 rather than 70. So the physical store and the physical experience still has a real part in, if you like, education and experience. So just tell me how the stores work, and then how you balance the store and online from a customer perspective.
It's a great question. And I was doing a talk 2 years ago now, and I remember, and I mean, there was a lot of people there from other retailers at the time, and everyone kept on talking about pure play, competing with the pure play, competing with online. If you actually zoom out a little bit, especially in the UK, a lot of the very successful internet retailer all have stores. Stores is a key part. It's about being local, having that support. So yes, we want customers to come in store, and many still do. Most still do that, in fact. But also the convenience of online, you can have it next day. You can reserve the last one of a product to collect tomorrow or have delivered to your work, knowing that you've got the local support and backup. You can speak to us on the phone, live chat, all of these essentially modern technologies that people have really got accustomed to over the pandemic. It makes it a lot easier to actually engage with the customer. So you're speaking with musicians and advisors online. You're doing the same in store, and really the advice you should get online and in store is very similar. Yes, you don't get to feel it, but you can when you're at home. And you know what? If it's not right, we'll exchange it or look after you. And it's not about sending it out and getting it wrong. We actually don't want any customer having a product that they don't like.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because then they won't come back, and it's this longer term relationship, because music's supposed to bring joy. And especially in the early years, a lot of the musicians don't stick at it. It's not instant gratification. DJing, other kind of areas are very kind of instantaneous. You can have a result by pressing a few buttons.
Can I just say,
playing.
for the avoidance of doubt, I have not had any results at all from pressing any buttons. I'm at that age where all of my male friends grow beards if they don't already have them, and then start offering to DJ at every party. And so you're always bouncing off saying, look, I love you as a friend, but please, you're not getting anywhere near anything in a party. They get very hurt. So I just want to say that talent isn't as equally spread as is internet access.
I mean, I think we're all in agreement of that.
Yeah.
And equally, no shade thrown on budding DJs.
None at all.
Players.
Especially those that sing.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, sorry, George, I was going to ask about this because the whole music production side has grown enormously. And I say this sitting in our wonderful studio, surrounded by tech that somebody else has put together and made it work. We're talking over the airways on a sort of digital studio. So there's been an explosion in that. So from the guitar beginning, how has the music, sound, production making scene expanded for you? Or are you still mainly 4 and 6 strings based?
So as you grow, as you run a business, you do have to diversify, and that forces you to look at other opportunities. A big part of what we sell is replicating music from the 60s and onwards. But sadly, when you get maybe the festivals, you'll see it yourself on television. You don't get there's not as many artists these days fronting with a whole band setup. Access to music is different. What people are into is different. And there's trends, but a lot of it's reliving the 90s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, etc., in different genres as well. And people want to escape to those genres, so to speak, as well. They want to get away from the now, and that's what music delivers, I suppose.
Away from the now. Oh, that's nice.
That's a nice one.
On your website, there are 2 things I wanted to ask you about. One was the school's education, which strikes me as slightly wholesale-y B2B, so an interesting market. And you also have this trade in second-hand thing going on. So let's start with schools first. Talk to us about the schools market. Is it a teacher rings up and says, can I have, a brass band, 40 guitars, we're doing a play about the Beatles and I need 37 left-handed bass guitars. How does the school market work from your perspective?
It'd be wonderful if that was the phone calls you were getting. I really feel for the education, the whole sector. With everything, I think it's fair to say across all sectors, there's cuts and everyone has their cost pressures, so to speak. So we'll tend to sell products that we, again, going back to we buy ourselves, but they're against these challenges of price points led by policies, whether it's local council. So trying to serve that market well and look after the education institutes is a real challenge. It's a challenge I don't think any retailer has been able to really crack and help. There's obviously Help to Buy and schemes that you can help pupils with, but they are overly complicated and very costly to administrate.
Interesting.
Teachers, school systems are probably enough pressure as it is to then try and navigate helping students find affordable. They've got the best of intentions, but the support it's a very difficult and challenging marketplace. Even more so over the recent years. Sadly, one of the first areas that always gets cut is music education. It's sadly the easy target because it doesn't necessarily get the recognition that it deserves.
And so what do you offer to them? So I came to your site as a harried but passionate teacher, and I log onto the site. Is there a special or different service for education, whether parents or teachers? How does that work?
We don't have any hidden sections, so to speak, or these used to maybe exist about a decade ago a little bit more, but what we give is more about kitting out a classroom or more bespoke offering or recommendations.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is maybe in the future as well. And there's obviously students looking to buy products, and we can always help with that. They can buy through the school, and there's VAT incentives to save the VAT on certain goods. Some manufacturers we deal with will give additional discounts to look after the educational side, because if you start on a particular brand or on a particular instrument, you're very likely to that's going to
Continue.
resonate. Correct. Exactly. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of investment in that space, and some of it is served very, very well, but it's a very difficult market, and the funding for that's always changing. And what it can end up coming, like you get people phoning up asking for one string, not a set of 6 strings, but actually a string. And and you're like, look, just send them out and look after them. But that's the type of level some schools are dealing with.
And do you feel, because I mean, just hearing you talk about it, it sounds like this, from where you are with your values as a business, this is all part of kind of how you can stay connected to the communities, to the people in the towns that you're based, and do the best that you can to kind of stay connected to music and, I guess, the people that are hopefully the future of it.
Yeah, we do a lot of musical therapy as well in charity.
Yeah,
but it's a very challenging space to operate in. Full stop.
So thinking about difficulties then, let's talk secondhand, because I saw a secondhand trade-in tab as well. Is that mainly for people wanting to upgrade, so on an upgrade path, or how does that work, and how do you manage to assess the product, both for trade-in value and then, of course, the challenges of selling a slightly used but loved product?
Trading is probably been part of whether you see it online or not, but it's a big part of music retailing generally, and it has been for a while. So it is, people do have aspirations, they want to upgrade and they want to progress. So it gives you that vehicle to do that. We do a lot of trade-ins online, we do that in store. It's a bit of bread and butter of what most musical retailers
and is that manually done? So I email you a picture and you look at it and think and mail me back, or is there some clever systemization? Because we see a lot, for example, in fashion with re-commerce, we see a lot of validation that really is, this guitar rather than a cheap guitar with a label stuck on it. So just talk to me about the processes behind that. Is it human and expert, or is it cunning and tech, or somewhere in between?
It's a bit of both. We have a lot of data on a lot of things over the years, but you've got people trading things in that we've never sold, maybe before we even existed, as well as some stuff that people bought 2 years ago. So we do have systems in place to accommodate that, and we do have a team of people that look after that as well. But it comes back to this: we want people to come into the store. You're trading something in. Well, what are you really looking for? Is what you're looking for the right fit for you? Is it going to give you the expectations that you want? Because the last thing you want anybody to do is trade in a product and then they get the new product and it's not better than what they've just let go of as well. Yeah. So it's not fashion, it's not an iPhone, it's not a serial number on a website, and then it's not really transactional in nature. Somebody's trying to progress to the next part of their musical journey.
Yeah. So that's twice now that you've said we want you in store. So I'm kind of take it back interested. Obviously, you kind of got bought in a few years in to really look at the digital presence and the kind of multi-channel journey, but we keep harking back to the store. So I'm interested in kind of what is your strategy around this kind of multi-channel approach? Like, have you mapped out what these kind of customer journeys are? Do they tend to start online, then in store, then back online? And how are you connecting the pieces? Because you don't have stores everywhere. So are they sometimes finding guitars in other places, but you want them to buy them with you? Like how are you kind of really balancing your offline and your online in that way?
Well, do you remember back in the day when you used to have other retailers have dual pricing?
Yes.
Yes. So we didn't partake in any of that. And that kind of ethos at the very beginning kind of set the stall up for what we do as a business today. The buzzwords have been out through the year: multi-channel, omni-channel, but we've always just been about come to GuitarGu, and we'll look after you wherever you want to connect with us. And having the stores and online gives us that flex. The stores and our online presence helped because we could do distributed dispatching and actually look after all the staff. We might touch on that later, but going back to the stores, we've always had real-time stock. We were the first in our industry to do that. So everything you're looking at and interacting with is one ecosystem.
Yeah.
So customers coming into the store, their profiles and everything are available online, and vice versa. We've kind of holistically connected that, and that makes servicing those customers a lot easier. If we receive an email from a customer, automatically we can look up their history, whether they've been in store, whether they're online, what were they interested in store, who did they speak to in store, and connect the dots from the very get-go.
Yeah.
Maybe been easier for us to do that because we've been smaller in size, but that's always been what we've been about, and we've always used technology to drive that, so to speak.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So you're usually, sometimes people talk a lot about, how they work in harmony, but you are very much talking about it is coming in store, and the online presence is in support of that and allows you to flex and maybe have greater reach.
Well, you give the great example. So we run hundreds of initiatives a year across all the different business units. And during the pandemic, obviously stores shut. And I know peers of mine had real challenges. What's the priority? All we did, and it sounds quite simplistic in nature, is everything that was store related that was already tagged as such, we just dropped out of our focus.
Yeah.
And then we reassessed one or two things, and then we just got on with it pretty much the next day, because we were operating in that fashion, thinking about what we're doing in store, thinking about what we need to do online, where we want to get to, but also then what we're doing for every other business area. And technology is in this wonderful place that gets to push the business areas, but also support what they need as well.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned, the commitment to the customer, and you've also mentioned staff a couple of times, which is great because, we love seeing the recognition, especially for frontline staff. But I was reading that you are an employee-owned business. So that's you and John Lewis, great company to be in, of course. So tell us a bit about the employee ownership and why. And then I'm just going to invite you to reflect on whether you think that helps you with this customer focus and service rather than maybe another structure. So employee ownership, just describe that for us at GuitarGu.
So we're in our second year of employee ownership. We're still very much finding our feet. But the key to it is about sustainability of the business and what we do in the market. If you'd gone down a route, as various routes you can go down, whether it's merger or acquisition, listing and all the rest of it, would have really probably dissected and cut up what the business was about. And 2 years ago, when we were going through that journey, one of our suppliers, who probably was the seed of the idea for us, a company called Taylor Guitars in the States, did a similar thing. It's not quite the same in America compared to the UK, but they used a phrase that has resonated with me ever since, was you already were operating like an employee-owned company or employee kind of / family to be able to do that transition, to actually become that. It wasn't that you were suddenly anointed employee-owned and then next day it all changed. We were already probably operating.
So that's interesting, because some people set up employee-owned businesses from political or moral conviction. Others would go to maybe for longevity or because they're doing B Corp and so on. But it's not usual that something's been set up in a capitalist share-owning structure then moves towards that. So what was the conversation, the Dear All memo? It sounds like it's a lovely collegiate place to work. So people come into the office one day and they open their inbox and it says, "Dear all, from the management team, we are going to be an employee-owned business." How did you break that news, and what was the response?
I would like to think through that our short conversations, you'd realise it probably wasn't the way we'd approach it.
Also, can I just make a really embarrassing concession, which is when Ian sent me the notes and he's like, well, we'll talk about, because we do actually prepare. We've just started preparing for these podcasts. And it said employee-owned business, you and John Lewis. I thought you meant that it was owned by 2 employees, you and a guy called John Lewis. And as you were talking, I went, oh, that makes so much more sense.
This just proves that preparation is not a good thing.
Oh, it's very funny. Anyway, so you and the company, John, not.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat that when I'm on the way home in the car. It's like, that's great.
One of my blonder moments.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We were at the dear old moment. So how did that go down with staff and making that transition?
It was great. So there was a lot of preparation. So as you'd imagine, as a board, you're brought into the loop pretty early on, and some of us were brought in probably a year before the event, because you've got to put the feelers out there. Is this the right direction? How would it be taken? But once that kind of pathway was set, we spent a lot of time and effort getting that communication right, more than we've ever done on anything else beforehand, because it's a big deal. A lot of staff will have questions. A lot of staff, and some of us don't understand or didn't understand some of the nuances with regards to that. Is it costing them anything? Like really
the basic bread and butter stuff.
Correct. So we spent a lot of time prepping that. We delivered screens to all of the stores. We had a big presence here in HQ and in the warehouse. We put on a big stage. We broadcasted it to all the stores simultaneously. So everybody, as many people in the company, found out about it at the same time. It wasn't a tour. It wasn't somebody found out late. We did it all in one go. And we also invited questions, and 3 of us stood on stage and gave the news. And it was wonderful to be able to do, and it was very privileged to be able to do that. And we thought there was going to be 5 minutes of questions. We thought people would just ask 5. We could have been there all night, and you understand why. But we did about an hour of questions, and there were great questions, and everything from. And there's this fine line between we're still operating as a business and it's sustainable that way, but we're now doing it for the benefit of all the employees, which is subtly, it's not ran by the employees, albeit the employees have a big say. It's for the benefit of all the employees. So it's not, every decision is not suddenly made by a committee and all the rest of it. It's we're doing it with the best of intentions for the people that benefit from it. And what that did though was you're already making, whether it's tactical decisions or something a bit more strategic or a large expenditure, you're already making those decisions with some scrutiny. But when you start to think about it, well, we're making these decisions, this is the whole board, and it's going to affect 165 employees, we better just make sure that it's right. We better make sure we're going in the right direction, which is still the same questions you would ask. But but the appetite for risk is slightly different when it's privately owned, because do you know what, we'll go for that. We'll have a punt on that. Versus, well, let's just make sure we're okay. And that's kind of followed us through. And I always remember one of the girls asking us afterwards, because we did beers, wine, pizzas, and everything afterwards, just as a bit of a celebration. And they went, "So, are we paying for this?" Are we paying for this? Kind of, but don't overthink it.
So the ownership model kicks in pretty quickly.
So that was that was wonderful, and that's how we run it today.
And so, if you had to just, someone asks you in passing, what one difference do you as a director see now that you've made this change? Is there anything that happens now that didn't happen before?
I've thought about this a lot, and it is about empowerment. In some way, we've always had that in different business areas, but really, whether it's stepping up or wanting to be accountable to their peers, but it is about empowerment, and people are thinking about their suggestions a little bit differently, or how the customers interact in slightly different ways. In some places, other places not. But customers do resonate with that. We are all here helping them on their journey, but that's connected with helping what we do as well. It's not a faceless corporate. It's a company that's kind of ran by musicians for musicians, or however you want to slice it. That's the kind of the optic that goes out from the customer.
we're on this positive moment. The wind of progress is under our wings. So let's use this moment to look ahead 20 years. How are you celebrating it, just to round off our time today?
And are Ian and I invited?
Of course you're.
He said
We have
pizza. He said
celebrate. We
pizza.
have so, more than pizza, but we have celebrations throughout the year. It's not just a birthday; it's the whole year. We're celebrating 20 years. I did joke with one of my other colleagues, "Hey, we should put a time capsule in the ground and pick it up in 20 years' time, just to see what it looks like, see what our predictions were back then."
Yeah.
I think you look ahead. We've got a whole year of celebrations planned out with people that suppliers, customers, staff that have been with us that whole time. So that's what we're looking forward to this year. We do have some other things up our sleeve that I would love to share with you guys, but I can't.
Oh, he's teasing us.
So maybe we should catch up in
Do
a few
another
months'
one.
time.
Well, I think, Mark, what's happened is you're so excited about having featured in the 2023 European Top 1000
Plug.
ranking that he's trying now to make sure he gets a space in 24 and 25.
I spat my coffee out when I read it last year. It was lovely.
That's so good. I mean, most importantly, I've now realized that I should also celebrate my birthday for the whole year. I'm just celebrating, the year of turning
Excellent.
22.
But this is all part of ownership.
I'm turning 22
and
as well
empowerment.
this year. So.
Ownership and empowerment.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, on that lovely note, we will wish you happy year-long birthday. That goes without saying.
Yes.
And a massive thank you for joining us in the studio. It's lovely to hear about the growth of a specialist retailer, but with all this connection to the consumer, the support for people's musical journeys, and of course the staff engagement, it's just a very lovely story. So from our side of the studio, it's thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure speaking to you both as well. And thank you for having us. And yeah, we could have talked all day, I think.
Yeah, we'll do part 2 when you can tell us
We'll
what the
do
secrets
part
are.
2
They better
when-
be good.
But you've got to spoil those secrets. No pressure. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, bye.
Lovely to see you. Thank you very much.
You play guitar?
It's good God, no. I
So-
play piano.
I own several guitars, none of which I can play.
I would love to be able to play because I sing, but I only tend to sing jazzy songs, which all seem to use bar chords. And it turns out I just physically can't do it.
Little
I
fingers.
can't get that finger to just stay in one place while the other, it's just not possible. This is what he means by instant gratification. Maybe if I continued forever, I get it. But
Well, I play the piano because it's instant gratification.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, the piano I
Guitar
can
is
do.
a whole other optic.